All right. Hold on.
Oh, there he is.
We are back and we are live and we are excited because we have Dr. Fink. Dr. Fink, what's your cat's name?
This is our new cat, Ellie. She just came in and wanted to say hello. I didn't bring her up here. She just said hello.
Oh,
there she is.
Awesome.
What's up, Ellie?
There's Ellie. She's exactly, I think, almost 5 months old.
Oh, wow. She's beautiful.
Yeah, she's big. She's one of those Maine Coon cats that's the breed, Maine Coon.
Okay.
I know it doesn't sound right.
No.
But that's what they're called. And I hate to say that, but it's true.
Oh, no. I mean, I think a raccoon, I'm originally from the South, and my grandfather actually used to hunt raccoons. So
yeah.
When I hear coon, I actually think of raccoon. And, while we're talking about raccoons.
Oh, look at that.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Dr. Fink, is what does Prince mean when he says squirrel meat? When he you guys accuse, during shows, what did that mean?
That's a great question that I can't even answer at the moment because I didn't know what he meant by that. I had no idea. It looks like my Viva paper towels are showing up in the picture, though.
Yeah, they are.
One second.
Yeah, no worries.
I don't want to advertise Viva right now.
So,
there we go. All right. Cool. Okay, here we go. I stocked up on paper towels like everybody. Geez, Oh, get rid of the other one, too. There's another one under there. Yeah. All right, I don't care anymore. Okay, let's go.
I just want to make you full screen. That's what I do. You'll always be in a small square. So we've already sort of started our Madhouse live panel, and I am super excited, if you haven't figured out, to have Dr. Fink with us. And he was with us during the Love Sexy Symposium, and he is so generous that he has come back to talk to us for this Madhouse live panel, and he will be back later for our final panel of the day with none other than Eric Leeds and Alana Bliss. So I'm super excited to have that conversation with them, as well as Michael Dean, about the New Year's Eve show and some other key Sign of the Times shows. And we might also talk a little bit about Love Sexy, because that's my favorite concert. So in addition to Dr. Fink, we have my oldest and dearest Prince friend from high school, Ricky Wyatt. We do podcasts together for Grown Folks Music. So we've been Prince fans for a very long time, and we've been geeking out for a very long time. And
since 85.
Yes, since 85. And we love Madhouse. Madhouse is one of our favorite projects. And also a very dear friend of mine is Jason Orr. He's a very, very dear friend of mine, and he is just an extraordinary man. That's all I got to say. He's done, Funk Jazz Cafe, if you know about that, for 25 years. He started producing films like Maynard is one of my favorite documentaries. It's really an incredible documentary, and I highly recommend, that you actually watch it. It's really important documentary.
What's it called? What's it called again?
Maynard, for Maynard Jackson, who was the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. He served 2 terms. And then also there's the Funk Jazz Cafe documentary. Yes.
What's it called again?
Funk Jazz Cafe.
Funk Jazz Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. And
that one I'll send to you.
Yeah, send me everything, guys. Send me all your stuff.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And so who's going to be moderating this conversation is Edgar Kruize, who's with us tonight in the Netherlands. It's 10 p.m. in the Netherlands, where he is right now. So we really appreciate him, sharing this time with us. And he is one of the co-host of the Prince Twitter thread series, and he also has a book on Prince, specifically about Prince in the Netherlands. And I am going to leave the stage, and I'm going to basically hand it over to Edgar.
All right.
Okay, well
nice to meet you guys.
All right.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, go ahead, Edgar. Sorry.
Yeah. First off, I want to ask to Matt Fink, of course, you weren't part of the Madhouse albums. You were credited on them, but you didn't perform on them, as far as I know. But were you aware that they were being recorded?
Yeah, but I did play on one of the songs on I believe it was the second Madhouse album. So it was like a live session with me, Sheila, Prince, Eric, everybody in that group. But Sheila did the drums on that. It wasn't the live guy that did the Sign of the Times tour with us. But
Dale Alexander.
Dale Alexander. But yeah, so I did play on one. I didn't work on the first album, obviously. And but go ahead. What's your next thought about that?
Well, I wanted to know what you thought of that album, because it was recorded when the Revolution had just broken up. You were the only core member that was also going in the new band. So what did you think of that musical direction? Because it was so different from what he was doing with the Revolution.
I thought it was awesome. I loved it, and I wanted to be a part of it more so. But really, that was Eric and Prince's project, and then the only reason I got involved doing it live on the Sign of the Times tour, and obviously brought me in for that one song just so he could have everybody on one. But the reason I ended up going on the road with it to open for the Sign of the Times tour is because the original keyboard player who they brought in to do it walked away from the gig about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks before the tour.
Who was that? Who was that?
I think his last name, was it Billy McLaughlin?
Oh,
it was. I know his last name is McLaughlin.
So like you didn't rehearse with them at all prior to,
they had started to rehearse. They had started to rehearse for the tour, and then he decided it wasn't for him for some reason. Who knows why? He was like one of those guys that had a solo career and maybe felt it wasn't going to, help his career to be doing that at that moment. Not that it was a great project, but maybe he thought, well, I do my originals too. I don't know if I want to be on tour for the next 3 months in Europe when I could be focusing on my own music. So that's probably why he left. He didn't really. I never saw them rehearse with him. I'd met him maybe a handful of times prior to that, and I knew his reputation. He's an excellent keyboard jazz guy. I mean, really, top notch. And so he walked away, and then they were going to cancel the Madhouse part of the tour. And then I said to Prince, I said, what do you think about me stepping in here at the last minute? I'd be interested. And he said, really? You sure you want to do double duty and doing all, doing the main show? And then, we're going to do after show gigs and all kinds of stuff. And I go, yeah, why not? I think it sounds like fun. And I thought, look, Eric and Levi are going to be doing all this, warming up the main show and then doing the after gigs too. They're going to be exhausted just as much as anybody.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do it, and he said, all right, why don't you start working on the songs, which I didn't know at all. So I had about 3 weeks to woodshed and get ready for that tour.
Oh, okay.
And I did it. And it was pretty interesting.
So let me ask you this, because we've heard stories, I know for years, about the Times grueling, say, rehearsals. We've heard stories about the Family, say, rehearsals. We've heard stories about Prince rehearsals. But what a Madhouse, say, rehearsals like? Like, what was that? Like, did you guys pick the set list, or did he kind of say, here, do these songs? Or how did that work?
No, it was pretty much, that's a good, again, it's been such a long time. I'm assuming, maybe Eric can shed some light on this later. You can ask that tonight real quick, but I think he and Prince determined the set list.
Okay.
Pretty much, because Prince was going to sit in with the group, obviously, and after gigs, after the main set at clubs. So he wanted to know in advance, what we're doing, but it didn't, he knew all the songs anyway, so it didn't matter. But whatever the set was, it had to be a half hour long for the opening thing and gig, and that was it.
Okay. Well, you mentioned double duty.
Yeah.
So how was that? Because his show is quite intricate with hand signals and transitions, and like different arrangements, and so like you had to learn his show and do this Madhouse show. So was it like, I know, was Madhouse kind of kept simple? I mean, for you, Eric and Levi.
Yeah, but by the time I volunteered to come on board, the Sign of Times show was pretty much together at that point. So I didn't have to worry so much about still learning more stuff for that tour.
Okay.
So it was just focused on, the Madhouse thing for about that 3-week rehearsal period. And then, of course, we were doing run-throughs of the main set by then. And then, of course, when we did technical rehearsals for the tour, we would go over to Birmingham, England, and there was a special facility there where they had an arena, and then they had also great big sound stages and other stuff you could use to do your pre-production and lighting cues. So Prince would spend a good 7 to 8 days with our lighting guy, Roy Bennett, with the band, doing dress rehearsals and tech rehearsals for the lighting cues. And literally, when you're doing that, you'll be playing a song, and then you'll be maybe 30 seconds into it, and then Prince will go, okay, stop. And then he and Roy go, okay, we got to do this change here, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd program it into the computer. And by then we were using what were called Very lights, which were those robotic lights that would move and do stuff, and you can program them. And that stuff was completely invented by people in the Genesis group, Phil Collins' Genesis group. They invented that technology in long about 82. 82 or 83. I think it was 83. I know that I saw Genesis perform in Minneapolis with Prince and our manager, Steve Farnoli. The three of us went to that show just to see their Very light setup, because we knew about it. And I turned to Steve and Prince. I said, we got to get these. They go, yeah, that's why we want to see this stuff. It's great. But we really didn't, I don't think we started using them till, I'm trying to remember if Purple Rain had them, maybe by 84, 85. And then we kept using that kind of stuff. Roy Bennett was using that all the way through the rest of whenever, and then that technology has blossomed into other things. It's just incredible. And now, that was so cool back then. Now it's like you just have these massive LED screens behind everybody now, doing all kinds of graphics and all this stuff. I don't know if any of you saw the Paul McCartney tour back in 2014, 15 era.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went to that one. It came to Minneapolis at the new Minnesota Twins Stadium outdoors, and that was all designed by Roy Bennett. Unbelievable, just the most spectacular show. Roy is, he's the premier guy in the industry. Yeah. I mean, of course, there's other people, but he's one of the top 10 that does that kind of thing.
The Madhouse.
Okay, go ahead. What?
I got another technical question for you.
Sure.
During that time, Nicolay posted this. Nicolay from Foreign Exchange. This is pre, iPad and technical, digital stuff. How were you, managing your patches on your keyboards during that time?
Oh, sure. Well, at that time, I had what was called the Yamaha KX88 MIDI controller.
MIDI controller.
It's a MIDI controller, and as a matter of fact, I still have it sitting right here to the left. It's part of my rig here in my studio.
85, 86.
That's right. I still have it, and then of course I have like the Native Instruments complete controller over on the other side. So I have two 88 note controllers I can mess with, but I primarily use the complete now more than I just have the Yamaha sitting around for posterity more than anything. So but that was one of the first great weighted MIDI controllers. So you could it didn't have sounds in it, but you could control rack mounted synthesizers and other things off stage with that. And you could have the presets all lined up in a row, set up to go from the MIDI controller. So you could just be boop, 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 down the line with all your songs and numbers were pre-programmed. And then the only other thing, I think I had another keyboard on that tour called the Prophet VS.
Yes.
and if you listen to Hot Thing and the lead line on that came out of that. Now that particular keyboard, I introduced Prince to that.
Okay.
I brought that into rehearsal one day. Said, "Hey, I'm going to probably buy this for myself. Check it out. If you like it." And he said, "Yeah, this is great." And then he grabbed it and went in the studio and started recording stuff right away because it was new. You know, it had all this new great sound.
Yeah, that Prophet boy. Woo.
Right, really cool. It was like one of the earlier like digital waveform style synthesizers, kind of like the old PPG wave synth.
And with Madhouse, did you have the exact same set as in the Sign of the Times stage?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, during the Madhouse show, did you have the exact same setup of your equipment as during the actual Sign of the Times concert? Because I have a picture, maybe so I can bring it up. It kind of looks the same.
No, it's different.
Okay.
The only thing that's the same is the KX88 controller, and then on top of that, like also for Sign of the Times, the main show, we had a Fairlight CMI digital sampler synthesizer thing that Prince was using a lot. So my keyboard tech, you know, he's off stage. He had to load, I believe they were 8-inch, literally 8-inch magnetic floppy disks into this thing. So there was no hard drive yet for that. It was just floppy disks and had all the sounds sampled on there. And then we had to time the show and how the songs flowed just right. So he would have time to load that for certain songs. And then it would take a while to boot up. You know, it would take sometimes 30, 40 seconds. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa. And the technology then for those samples was 8-bit. That's it. Wow. You know, nowadays you got like everything's 24-bit, blah, 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 or higher. So it was just really kind of rough sounding, and it was cool. There were great sounds in it, and that was it. You know, so later for the following tour with the Love Sexy tour, we took all the Fairlight stuff, we sampled it into emulator Emacs hard drive rack mount machines. So that's how we made it work faster, so you could have them load instantaneously. We didn't have to have that lag time worrying about loading up the Fairlight.
And who did the okay, I'm sorry, Jason. Who did the arrangements for the tunes? Like, how did you guys kind of work that out? Because I'm sure as you learned them,
for Madhouse,
kind of wanted to make it. Like I'm sure as much as you guys like rehearsed, like there was some part of you that probably wanted to improvise a little bit or do some things. I mean, a little better, but you had like 20 minutes. So I'm sure
it was primarily Eric was doing it.
Okay.
Doing the arrangement.
Did you guys ever want to like improvise some songs that kind of go off or do some other things, or was it just kind of like stick to the script?
No, we stuck to the really the majority of the album arrangements with little modifications, maybe if we had to shorten it and we had like maybe some transitions into other songs that were created. But other than that,
a song like Two, for instance, sometimes it lasted about 5 minutes. Other times it lasted up to 7 minutes during the tour. So there was some improvisation.
Oh yeah, there's definitely solos could be stretched and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. And then,
did you see the previous panel?
Say that again.
Did you see the previous panel?
I'm afraid not.
Okay, there were some questions about at one point during an after show and during a few Sign of the Times shows, the ballad of Dorothy Parker was played, Seeked with 4, the Madhouse song 4, and then later on the tour, Dorothy Parker was dropped, and we only had Madhouse 4, which is now on the Sign of the Times Deluxe set. So people wanted to know how that went about, because a lot of people love that Dorothy Parker /4 performance. Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I don't. You got to remember something. He was changing stuff every couple shows. I mean, not only did we do 2.5-hour sound checks every time before a show, like a rehearsal, open up with a jam. Oh, here's a new song. I want to try this progression. Oh, wait, we're doing these new transitions. We're adding this song, and this is a new cue. Blah blah blah.
That's a lot.
So
That's a lot.
yeah, it's changing, morphing throughout the tour, and so I kept a boombox with me on stage all the time. That's how I was able to keep track of everything. I would record it at rehearsal, go into the dressing room before the show, listen again so I could remember what the heck was going on. And then other times I would write it down too on top of it, and then have a little cheat chart right on the keyboard. Nobody knew that, but that way I would I memorized it. I
think every musician does that at some point. They have a cheat chart.
Sure.
I mean, somewhere. So what was your like? Well, I know. Do you remember the first Madhouse show? Like, I guess the audience, reaction, or do you remember kind of like how you felt like afterwards, or were you like, oh, hey, that was cool, or we can build on this, or were you just kind of like, we just open?
No, it was fun. I mean, it was all good, and we usually got a decent reaction, good reaction to the music. And of course, the funny thing was bringing a different woman that they chose. They'd get a different person in every city, a female, to come on stage like a boxing match, like a boxing rounds, like to carry out the numbers, for the first song, the second song, so on. So they'd come out before each song and walk off the stage.
I have a picture of that. I hope D'Angela can bring it up if she's.
And while she's doing that, I got a question about those numbers.
Sure.
And I know you said Eric did this, or majority of the music with Prince, like songs, titles, and sequence. Like 1 wasn't the first song. 2, how did that happen? How did the naming of the songs come? Like, this is going to be 1, because even later on, you guys in a live show in '86, you did 16, performed it live. Did you ever get confused with the titles of the songs and what you were playing?
No.
So how about the names and the sequence? How did that come about? Do you know anything about that?
Nope. I wasn't privy. I just was there to support.
Yeah,
But at the start of the tour, the Madhouse set list for the opening act was different than the later part of the tour.
Yeah.
Different songs were played, etc. And at one point, even Mutiny, an old family song, made it onto the Madhouse set. So why was chosen to do a non-Madhouse song in an already very short Madhouse set?
Well,
yeah.
Again,
I would figure that like Susanna Pajamas would be a logical choice, but they chose Mutiny sometimes.
Very good, Ricky. That's good, Ricky.
I don't know what to say about that, because, like I said, I'm not privy to those decisions. I just showed up and played. They tell me what to play, and I was the robot.
But it was fairly a new album, so it may have been giving them Mutiny to a song to be familiar with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to wear the robes or the hoods, or like how did that come about?
Oh well, that was definitely a Prince idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the movie to go with it.
What?
Yeah.
And the movie to go with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you guys filmed a little home movie type thing or something.
Are you talking about the videos we did?
Yeah, he called them movies, but they were videos, long videos. But Michael Jackson called Thriller a film too, a short film, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly which. We did a couple of videos.
There's a one called Hard Life that it's supposedly your mother is in there.
Yeah, my mom is in Hard Life. Yeah, Hard Life was supposed to be a short film that Prince was experimenting with. He just, wanted something to mess around with. So he did that Hard Life thing. And yeah, he decided to bring my mom in, who she's a professional actress, locally here in Minneapolis she was, and did a lot of theater and voiceover work, as well as my father. They were both had degrees in theater from the University of Minnesota. So they were highly active in the community theater and some of the professional theaters around here. And my father was the head of the St. Louis Park Community Theater for several years when I was growing up. In fact, the first play I ever saw, I was about 3 years or 4, maybe 3. I was in the front row with a babysitter watching my parents on stage do this play called 3 Men on a Horse, which was a comedy. And of course, that was it. It was in my blood, at a young age, the whole theater thing. So I grew up doing some theater and voiceover work myself for educational recordings. And when I was 14, I did a radio show called Healthy, Happy, and Safe, which was an educational show for junior high age kids and in elementary all over the Twin Cities here, and I would interview this one doctor named Dr. Fleer every week. We'd do all shows for the month. I go in one day a month, and we'd track all 4 shows with me interviewing with the scripts. And this went out on KUOM radio, which was the University of Minnesota's station. So yeah, I had a lot of stuff like that growing up, more and learning music at the same time.
Speak on this, because somebody named Panic Survivor just posted something about your early years as a comedy musician. I knew nothing about that. Can you tell us about that?
Comedy music? What?
Yeah, that's what they said. Is that true?
No. Where did that come from?
That would have been funny. Somebody just posted that in here.
Although I have been mistaken for Weird Al Yankovic back in the day. There were a couple times when I had big bushy hair, So I either got mistaken for Weird Al or Prince's manager, Steve Farnolli. I got
So let me ask you this.
Mistaken for either one.
By 87, you had been with Prince of Wyatt, well, pretty much his whole, professional, career.
That was about 9 years at that point.
Yeah. Of all the rehearsals for the tours that you had to do, this one being like double duty, was this one probably one of the more harder, say, rehearsals, or was it like where you just so, well tuned at that point, you were like, oh, I can navigate these.
Yeah, it wasn't harder per se. It just was more time spent because you had the main show, and then like I said, I had to woodshed really fast, 3 weeks of rehearsals with Madhouse to get that ready, and we did barely get it ready, really. And then, it was fun. I had a great time. The only problem that happened though with being doing that is that we got a bit run down physically doing that. So what happened is I was young, still I think I was about 20, probably like 28 at the time, 29 actually, almost 29. So what happened is me and Levi and Miko Weaver, who was not in Madhouse, but the 3 of us came down with a nasty summer flu bug, maybe, or some sort of weird, it had to be a coronavirus, because we were all sporting 102 fevers.
Wow.
and we were in Milan, Italy for that. We had to do the show 2 nights in a row in Milan in this big inflatable domed arena, right? Really weird, really odd. It was inflated, literally, and held about 9,000 people. It was bizarre. Never seen anything like it. So you're in there, and it's hot out. It's not really well air conditioned. The air is flowing, but it's warm in there. So you're already 102 fever on stage playing Sign of the Times and Madhouse before the show with fevers.
That brings up a question. And you're not asking for a figure, but doing all that double duty, did Prince make the money right?
Oh yeah. Prince was a good man. Prince took care of us just fine. I have no complaints about Prince and how he paid people.
Right.
So was there ever a reason why Matt Bliston wasn't asked to kind of come in and join you guys, or like Miko, was there? It was just kind of Prince had a quartet in mind, and he just kind of left it at that.
It was a keyboard-oriented group with sax and drums and bass, and that's how it was recorded. There was no guitars on that stuff. Right.
Yeah, it wasn't. I know, Edgar. Now you saw Madhouse live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually the first thing I ever saw. My first big concert was the Sign of the Times tour in Utrecht, a day after the one that's now been released. So Madhouse was basically the first Prince-related thing I ever saw live.
Wow!
And I loved it. And it was.
And how was the visual? How was the visual of that? Because we only get still pictures and audio.
But I have another picture. I'll bring one up. Hang on. This is in Utrecht on the 19th. This is one. Yes, this is the visual of that night. This is what I was a bit more to the middle.
Nice.
But this is what I saw. There was this big backdrop, and they were just playing in front of that. And what I really liked is that somehow the vibe of the support act was totally in line with what we got later on during the show. For me, it was one big show instead of a support act and then Prince afterwards. So maybe was that also thought out like that, or wasn't that the case? Because I find it's a real pity that the Madhouse set is not on the Sign of the Times box set.
Yeah, I was not privy to the estate managers who made this decision. I personally think they should have included Madhouse on there, and I don't know why.
It was an integral part of the night. So
what's that?
To me, it's an integral part of the night.
Oh yeah, it's definitely integral. Yeah, no kidding. So I am a little surprised that they didn't include it, but not my decision.
So Matt, are you aware of how like it was kind of short-lived, like you guys did Madhouse like just for that one tour, but are you aware of the impact or the love that Madhouse itself gets from people?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that tour, that was like from May '86 to when?
June. It was
June. That was pretty short. That's
it ended June 29 was the last show.
That's like a month later.
Well, yeah. I thought we toured, didn't we? I thought it was.
May.
I thought we were back by July, weren't we?
We're coming from nerdy information, so we're asking the cat right now.
The first show was early May, I believe, 5th of May.
Okay.
Yeah, and the last show was June 29 in Antwerp.
It was about a 2-month tour.
May 8th to June 29th.
Yeah. So
and before that, the Madhouse had been doing some signing sessions in Sweden.
Sure.
So there was a little bit before that. I believe there was even a Madhouse show before the Sign of the Times tour started, but I'm not really sure.
Not me either at this point. but here's the thing. The tour was really supposed to really go the whole summer. It was supposed to be through August.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, Prince decided to do the concert film instead and move on. Why he did that, he never revealed to me. I know I asked him, and he just said, "No, this is what we're doing." And that's how he operated. He did not, maybe with management, he might have given them a reason for this. But that was it. He made that decision. Maybe he had other plans that he wanted to take care of, that he had other things to do. And of course, his vision. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the second Madhouse album came. The first Madhouse album was early 1987. The second came in November. So, was there ever a time that there were plans for a separate Madhouse tour just to promote that second album?
No, they never discussed it with me at all.
It was more like a side project. Like, it's good. We're going to make it funky. We're going to make an album and support it. Pretty much, we're not trying to make a whole bunch of albums with this. What was the thought?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
What was Prince thinking? Like, this is a side project. We're going to make some songs. I know it came off of the studio recordings of The Flesh, that period.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, okay, and that's why I asked about the song sequence earlier. Like, okay, we got a good jazz funk fusion record here. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And then we're going to go out and support it with Sign of the Times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a short-term thought project? Wasn't nothing long-term for sure. Did he talk about it much? Nah.
Did he give you any, I guess after you guys show, was there ever any compliments like, "Hey, great show, guys," or "Hey, this is something like we could build on," or any type feedback on how the show was? Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know what? There was one after show where he played with us, but then he told me, he said, something's going on with the groove tonight or something. There was one night where he got critical a little bit. He felt like something was dragging. The time wasn't this, blah, blah, blah. Made some comments, and then he looked at me and said, I think it might be coming because of you or something you're doing, maybe because you're too fresh with the material. I said, all right, well, I will work on it and make it better. And I did, but I personally thought it might have been Dale, maybe, he is a drummer, but he was great too. But then maybe one night he was off. I don't know. I just know that one time
wasn't Dale brought in at a
tell us about Dale.
later point.
Say that again.
I believe there was. I'm not sure, but I believe I heard that there was originally another Madhouse drummer, and Dale was also brought in to replace that original drummer. Is that true?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a guy named HB Bennett. He was a friend of Eric's, I think, and he was the original guy. And then he got replaced with Dale because I think the original guy.
I remember that now.
I know the original guy was too jazzy, and Dale was more funky, and Prince wanted, I think, more funky drum. So
I do see this all was happening behind the scenes before I came in. This was when Bill McLaughlin was still involved. So I'd heard about it. Now I recall this now. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. So was there ever any morale amongst you all Madhouse guys that, hey, like we're onto something here, like we can do something, or was it just kind of like, hey, it's part of the gig, type deal? Like, was there, was there ever any talks amongst yourselves, like maybe we could, keep doing this, or maybe we should talk to Prince about keep doing this, or
Yeah, we were always interested in doing more with it. Sure.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, the second album was done, and then later Eric, Prince gave Eric the ability to do a solo album, helped him, supported that.
Times Square.
So I know, what were the reviews, and Edgar, you can probably chime in this, like what were you guys getting? What were the type of reviews that say you got from the writers overseas about Madhouse? Like, what was if you remember?
The reviews were good.
Yeah, the reviews were very good over here. Both on the album and on the live shows. So people really liked it.
Yeah.
I know after a month, y'all didn't. That wasn't a lot of playing, but. Well, it was a lot of playing, but like the time had this thing like, we're going to kick his ass tonight. You know what I mean? Did y'all ever feel like tonight we kicking Prince's ass? Did anybody in the group? You may not, because you're about to go hit with him and be a part of that crew. Anybody talk about that?
No, we didn't. We never got into that competitive Muhammad Ali type thing, where the music business is looked at as a competitive fight. I personally never had an attitude like that with anything with that, because to me, music is subjective. Not everybody's going to like what you do, and some people will, some won't. Like, but I didn't look at the music business totally as a competition, but the people like Michael Jackson, obviously, and Prince, and some other, Madonna, and other people, they wanted to conquer the world and be a number one and be on top and call themselves the baddest, and that whole thing, which was created whatever controversy for people, or I don't know. Some people look at it that way. I don't know why.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I see someone asking here if you're interested in reforming Madhouse in some way to do some live shows after the pandemic. Would you be interested?
I would be. Eric and I have talked about it a little bit over the years.
Oh, fantastic.
But it hasn't been easy to put that together, to financially make it feasible, unless you're just going to do some local stuff in the US or some clubs, and it's not the kind of thing that you can rely on from a financial standpoint. I think at this point, it's just too far gone. We've been away for too long.
Well, you could do a 4-city major tour. I mean, a 4 major city type thing. I know Jason will make it happen, like in Atlanta for you. So I know that.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm open to it. If Eric's open to it, I don't know who we would get to play bass. If you,
I'll do it. I volunteer my services.
Actually,
I volunteer my services.
Get Levi. Not to say no to you, but I'd like duh. Yeah, Levi. We'd get Levi.
Yeah, I mean, the originals would be great, man. I mean,
and if we could get Dale, would be fine. I don't even know where he is anymore. I've lost touch.
Someone said Dale is an equally funky keyboardist now.
Oh, he's been a keyboard player. He was a great jazz player when he was in the band back then.
Was he from Sheila's Oakland stash?
No, he's from Minneapolis.
Minneapolis? Oh, okay.
Minneapolis. So, another question about the rehearsals. What do you recall? Like, did Prince ever jam with y'all doing the rehearsals, or was there ever like where you just pressed for time and you guys had to kind of get in and get out type deal?
He couldn't be at every rehearsal. He was very busy, but he would come, from time to time and makes a few suggestions along the way. But yeah, primarily, and then because he was going to sit in later, then he eventually would play a little bit with the band too, during rehearsal.
In the latest Prince podcast that was released a few days ago, there's the story of people seeing Prince on the side of the stage watching Madhouse. Was he very much involved with how the Madhouse shows went and how you progressed and evolved on stage?
No, not much.
Okay, so the people that saw him there, it was just an incident. He wasn't there every night.
Hanging out, he's watching,
Mm-hmm.
What? Were you involved in 16 and 24?
In the songs themselves?
No, the albums.
Oh, the album. Well, the 16 album. I played on one of those tracks with Sheila on drums. I don't remember which one. It might have been the last track on the album. Maybe it was 16.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. And 16 was played live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the studio, in Studio A at Paisley Park, actually.
Wow, that's it. Go ahead, Edgar.
No, I was just wondering how important the Madhouse sound was for that particular period in 1987, 1988, because a lot of Madhouse songs also more or less made their way into the Love Sexy set. 3 was added to When Two Are in Love, 12 was added to Jack You Off, etc. So how important was that sound that Madhouse had created for the overall Prince sound?
How important was it?
Yeah. Or I like I said, I always felt it like that it was like one big thing, in 87, obviously with the support act and then the show afterwards. But in 88, there was also a lot of Madhouse themed music within the Love Sexy tour.
He obviously liked to incorporate it into the set for whatever reason. But it was definitely set apart really from everything else to me, sonically. It was still unique unto itself and not necessarily something that totally fit with the Love Sexy album, but it was there. Oh, my friend Adam Rudigier in Australia is asking, did you have to transcribe all those wacky arrangements by ear? You guys know who Adam is?
What's up, Adam?
Okay. Hey, Adam. And I played on some of Adam's stuff too, obviously. But in fact, he's come to Minneapolis more than once to work with me. And as far as transcribing, I would make my own chord charts for rehearsals always. And then, I have to learn them by ear, but then as I'm learning them by ear, I'm transcribing before I memorize them. It helps me to memorize everything, Here's another question. Dr. Fink, will you do any more collaborations with PC Munoz? Which he spelled wrong. Sorry, you put an I in there, buddy. Anyway, typo. But I'd love to work with PC anytime. I'm sure I will in the future. He's very busy, of course, with a lot of other projects as I am. But anytime he's ready and willing, I'm there for him. And then would Matt consider Madhouse to be, would I consider that to be jazz? Well, it in a sense it is, but it's funk jazz, like it's original and unique and not it's fusiony, you know, it's like a mixture of funk and instrumental jazz. Yeah.
So again, what was the response of your musical peers in Minneapolis, like when they heard that you guys were Madhouse and you had, you know, come back from like the tour and you had done some videos now? And was there, because I'm sure Minneapolis has a jazz community, you know, like what did they think of Madhouse, or did they kind of like, was like
most of the people I knew really loved it. You know, they thought it was really fun, you know, and cool, really, really unique and original. And, you know, it was different from regular, like, you know, if you wanted to compare it to something Herbie Hancock did, or, you know, a few other things. I mean, in the early 80s when Herbie had that one hit, what was that one?
Rocket? You talking about Rocket?
Rocket.
Yeah.
Madhouse was kind of another take on that, maybe, because of all the synthesizers and the sample sounds that were brought in and the rhythms and all that. You know, it obviously they're completely different animals, but it's in that vein. It's in that same spirit of experimentation using the state-of-the-art gear that we had.
Have you ever played the Madhouse material not on a synthesizer, but like a Fender Rhodes type sound, or like
have
a
I?
piano?
Have I?
Yeah, I mean, Have you? Because you know, like I know you said that it was for the moment, and so I've always wondered like what that material would sound like with the more like organic sound.
I haven't tried that yet. No.
I think Madhouse, you know, you just put it in the right perspective for me, Dr. Fink, because as I think of how the albums 8, 16, and 24 are literally nothing alike, but they're all, like you said, jazz, funk, fusion, experimental pieces. But the key about the technology of the times actually made the sound of those records.
Right.
That was real key. I appreciate that information right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All these years with a mask on stage, does it bother having to wear it all the time? You were far ahead of us, Doc.
Good question.
And this came from Christophe Thierry. I think I said his name right. Christophe Thierry. Yeah, right? Okay.
Pull it under your nose a little bit so you could breathe.
You know, that's against the rules right now to take it under the nose, because if you go in a room like that, you're still spreading stuff. You got to make sure your nose is covered. Here's the problem. If you can't cinch the mask, I like the ones that have the metal bands built in because you can really cinch them over your nose well.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it just leaks out anyway. It's not 100% safe. No matter what we do, masks are not going to be 100% unless you can wear an N95 or a KN95. I've researched this because I'm a doctor.
That's right. You're a doctor.
But the thing is, if you got a good cloth mask with good layers and all that, and it's sealed well, you should be good to go. But what was the question?
Did you have a problem breathing with it though? Because you kept it on, didn't you?
No. Here's how it worked in the early years when I first had the like when we were on the tour with Rick James in '79, and we opened for Rick James, 79 into early '80. Prince said, "I want you to come out on stage in the mask, wearing it." And I had these sunglasses and all this stuff, so I looked like, in the cap and all that, so I looked like this creature from the Black Lagoon or something. You know, I looked like this monstrous doctor guy from a horror film. And what would happen, I'd have it on the first at least 2 or 3 songs, and it's steaming up my glasses. The sun dark to begin with. I can't see shit on stage anyway. And so I'm steaming up. I'm trying to see my changes and what I'm doing, you know, and I said to Prince, I said, after the show, because I think the first show I wore it like pretty much the whole time, first couple. And I said, Prince, I can't function well with this. It's steaming up my glasses. What can I do? He goes, just wear it for the first song and then take it down and let it dangle then at that point. I said, okay. So that's how it worked. And then I never really, once that tour was done, whatever subsequent tours happened, it was strictly hanging. I never wore it on stage because of that problem with it, with the steaming glasses issue.
Speaking of masks, the Madhouse, when the first album was released, the whole band was more or less a mystery. Eric was the one that actually existed, but all the other band members in the official band bio didn't exist. Ostra Chanel was the keyboard player, for instance, etc. And then the live band came, and you were very recognizable, you, and Levi was very recognizable, Levi. Was it ever considered having masks on so that you couldn't see who was the band?
No, that was never a consideration.
Because somebody earlier asked, did anybody ever substitute a band member?
Nope.
Yeah.
You like a soldier. So how did playing the music for Madhouse and then the Sign of the Times set, I mean, compare and contrast? Like, that was a question that was asked.
How was the, say that one more
How
time?
did the,
oh,
how did
someone
the,
asked Matt, how did playing the music live compare and contrast to Sign of the Times? Well, obviously it's like I said earlier, it's a very unique sound. It didn't sound like stuff off a Sign of the Times at all. So yeah, it did contrast to me quite a bit. And there's no vocals on it. And it just had all this sampled stuff, you know. I mean, the Fairlight had all these sound effects loaded on it for certain songs, you know, and the sheet gunfire and other, you know, funny things.
The moaning woman.
Yeah, the moaning woman and somebody going, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the innovation, was using samples and doing all that, using the Fairlight. Yeah,
I know you guys had a back in 2004, I think it was, you did a benefit for Sheila, the Family Jam, and there was a brief
actually December of 2003.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well,
that's okay if you want to be specific.
Yeah, okay. You had a brief Madhouse reunion then. Like, how was that? Like, how was it kind of coming back?
Right,
And go through those tunes again. Like, how was
that?
that?
That was Eric and I and Sheila on drums and Levi. And then we also had Sheila's support people helping a little bit in the background with some fatteners too during that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, that was really great to be able to reunite and do that for her charity event that was in Los Angeles, that the Angel Bunny Foundation.
Okay.
And
how did it feel to you?
How did it felt great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was just like, you know, riding a bike.
How did everybody sound together?
Yeah, like, how were the rehearsals for that, or was it like an extenuous? Was it like a day or two or something? Or?
No, not even that. It's like maybe a day.
A day.
Yeah.
Wow.
The day before we worked it out with Sheila. You know, we learned our stuff. We had to I had to refresh the old memory completely, relearn everything. Here's a question: Matt, did Prince try out new synths all the time, and what was your part in that? Okay, well, I don't know, Lars, if you heard earlier, I stated that I'm the one that brought the Prophet VS into rehearsal one day for Sign of the Times, and Prince loved it, and then we incorporated it into the show. But I would say once we were, you know, underway in the early 80s, you know, because when I came on the scene in late 78, he already had all his equipment that he'd used for the first and second albums were there, which were some older Oberheim stuff, you know. And the very first tour, I was using all kinds of just basic stuff like Mini Moog and clavinet and Rhodes, and we had an ARP Pro Soloist, and then we had the Oberheim 4-voice machines going on at that time. You know, the little SEM module versions, you could have 4 or 8 voices, and that era was very, you know, combination between analog and synths and mechanical keyboards like the Rhodes and the clavinet. And then it kept progressing to the newer and better Oberheims and all that. So and ARP, I know we used to use the ARP Omni later on, and then we got into the Yamaha CP70 electric grand pianos, and then I brought the Memory Moog in to the tour for Purple Rain to use. along with the Oberheim. In fact, that was the bass part for I Would Die For You, which was sequenced with the Lynn drum machine, by the way, which was a special modification that was done to the Lynn by our technical guy. And that did not have MIDI, and it was added to the Lynn later so it could lock up to the Moog to create that bass part.
Yeah.
Because Prince played that in the studio live, going like this.
Oh.
And then I did it initially at rehearsal, just me going, and you had to be spot on, or it sounded like, forget it.
Yeah.
You had to sound like a sequencer. And Prince was such a tight player, he made it sound like like it was a sequencer. Not that I struggled with it, but I said to him, this doesn't really make sense for me to just be doing this the whole time for the song. Maybe I could sequence it and play the main chords against it with Lisa so it'll be fat, And he goes, that's a great idea. How could we do that? And I said, well, I got this memory Moog. It's got a built-in sequencer. Let's make it work. But we couldn't. We had to make it lock up to the drum machine. And technology wasn't available yet. So it had to be jerry-rigged.
Right, because I was going to ask, wait a minute, that's 86, 85, 86.
Oh, no, that's before that. That's 84.
84.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
84. And our guy, Don Batts is his name, our technical head tech guy. He's the one that had the knowledge to modify the Lynn to lock up to the memory Moog at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Prince, he was checking stuff out, but really I was the main guy really bringing stuff in at that. Once we were beyond the second album and we were into the Dirty Mind era and beyond, I was always bringing stuff around or making suggestions, and we'd try stuff. I'd bring it in, and then he'd say, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. Let's get that or not.
Did you ever witness Prince and Miles interacting, talking music, talking jazz?
Not really.
Yeah. Wow.
Here's a question. Was the solo in the song Head inspired by David Bowie's Beauty and the Beast, Heroes, parentheses, question mark? I hear that influenced. And the reality is no. But Matt, how are you able to keep that solo and Head so consistent over the years?
That's a good question.
Well,
Nicolay Rook.
I have good ears. I learned the song. I learned my parts after first of all, that solo was completely improvised in the studio.
Yeah.
And I must have done at least 7 takes or more. I can't remember, somewhere in there before Prince went, oh, that's the one. Okay, now it was almost perfect, but there's one spot we got to fix. I'm going to punch you in here, boop. And then we fixed it, and that was it. And it was one of those things where, like a jazz player, like I am, obviously I'm an improvisational jazz type player. And Prince is too. And that's how we did stuff. We would kind of wing it on the spot. You're like making up stuff. It's just flowing out of the brain, and you're going like jazz musicians do. And so after the fact is you have to go back and listen and go, oh, that's what I played. Oh, I better learn that exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
you did a good job of that. You did a good job on the Madhouse stuff too, nailing it, like
thank
on
you.
top of it. Especially that May 21st after show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That was amazing.
But but even now today when I do the head solo, I don't play it exactly the same. I think I'm doing about 2/3 of it note for note, and then the rest I'm messing around, and I'll sometimes completely change it up, like Prince does, with solos and stuff. He's not always playing the same thing, but just so different.
So how was, because this like particular year was kind of new for you, because like for instance, you had been playing with Brown Mark since '81, and now you were playing with Levi.
Mm-hmm.
You had been playing with Bobby since '79. Now you got 2 new drummers. I think the only person that you were familiar with playing with was probably Eric. So like as a musician, like how was that adjustment for you? Like was it kind of challenging, or did you just kind of
No, it was just we were all pros, we just melded together just fine. And
In the previous panel, someone said that you were more or less Prince's safety net because he knew how to depend on you because you had been playing so long at that point. So
Yeah.
within this new band, you were the safety net. You were the one he could fall back on. Is that something you think was correct? Or?
Well, I don't know if you could call it falling back on. He just obviously knew that I was a capable guy and had grown as a musician since starting with him. And then he just respected that and wanted me around for that. So, okay, here's another one. The Sign of the Times band looked like they really enjoy having a few minutes off when Prince leads the crowd on Forever in My Life. Was that the case? Really enjoy having a few minutes off? I don't know if it was enjoyment. It was just part of the show. I was like, oh God, I can't wait to take a break. Geez, I'm so tired of playing these songs. I'm going to be off stage on Forever in My Life enjoying myself. No. Sorry, I didn't mean to be sarcastic about that question. But.
One of those Prince podcasts was talking about that transition when Wendy said she saw Wally and Jerome and all of them, and you guys were like family as the Revolution, right? Mm-hmm. And so now you're in this new configuration and new music, with Sign of the Times with Prince. Where how comfortable and content were you, moving forward and leaving Wendy and Lisa and Brown, How was that transition all together?
Well, first of all, the loss of those bandmates was very, very, it was very difficult when it happened for me. Mm-hmm. It was a really sad time. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to see him go. Mm-hmm. And I did my best to try to convince Prince not to do that. I know you got some issues with people at the moment, not with Bobby. There was some Lisa and Wendy stuff going on, which I'm sure you all have heard from different interviews from them and privy to, maybe, I don't know, or anything like that. But I don't like to expound upon any of that because that was a personal issue between them and Prince. And I just really felt bad about it. But again, I couldn't really leave the group. I was under contract to Prince at that time. Oh. And we all were, really. But he could say, okay, I'm going to let you go, even though you have this contract. But the way the contract was written, I can let you go with a certain amount of notice legally, the way this was written. Okay. So he could have fired me too at that moment if he'd wanted to. But in a way, you're glad to have the gig. Glad to keep the gig, but at the same time, very disappointed with how things were going because of that. So, and Prince actually called me personally and asked me, or told me that, I'm giving you a choice to stay or go. I don't understand if you left because I'm letting these other people that you love go as well. But then I thought, well, if I go, what's the future? Will I be in a band with these other bandmates? They haven't really talked about that because everybody got let go and there was no plans for any of that or any talk of it. It's like starting over for them, unfortunately. So Lisa and Wendy went and did their solo careers. Bobby produced their first album with them, which was great. Maybe I would have been involved with that. I'd say there's a good chance I would have. Wow. Who knows? Maybe I would have ended up being in Wendy and Lisa's band as a side band, or helping contribute to their album like Bobby did. I'm assuming, they never actually said to me, hey, Matt, we wish you would have left and come with us, but we totally understand why you stayed. They always said, we understand why you stayed. They never said, if you had left, we would have given you a job. But they knew that financially wouldn't have been very lucrative yet, too.
So was volunteering to step in for Madhouse your way of saying, more or less a way of saying, I really want to be here. If you need me, I'll step in and do what I need to do? Or was it also just the music that led you to doing Madhouse?
It was all the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, what was because when you guys got off tour and then you filmed the movie at Paisley Park, you also filmed a couple of Madhouse videos that were some of the first videos filmed at Paisley Park. Like, how was that say experience, or like were they done like I think before the movie or like after the movie?
By the way, my father was in one of those videos too.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy around the pool table smoking a cigar, kind of older gentleman.
Okay.
He's also in there too. Prince liked the fact that my parents were actors, you know, and he liked it.
Okay.
So he would ask you to bring them along, or he would call them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Prince's dad hung out a lot with us too.
Yeah, we saw that in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great guy. Prince's father was very gracious and always complimentary towards me personally.
As a player?
Question. What?
As a player, right?
And as a player, yeah. No, he's a great player. So El Dabara says, not a shade question, but why does Matt think Prince stuck with him for so long?
Just kind of answered that.
Yeah, I did kind of answer that. But yeah, obviously he liked what I did. He liked how I played and the fact that I could, you know, adapt to whatever he was doing.
Right. And you're coming from Dirty Mind on up, right?
Yeah. No, before
the first album. The second album.
First album.
The first album.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's 79, right?
I actually auditioned in October of 78. And I was in the group just for the last few months of 78. And then we played the first show ever in January for the Warner Brothers executives at a theater called Capri Theater in Minneapolis. Someone's asking me how my brother David is doing. I don't have a David brother.
They got the wrong band member.
My older brother, I have one older brother. His name's Michael.
I think they're confusing you with Bobby.
Yeah. Oh, you're thinking of David Z.
David Z. Yeah, that makes sense.
With Bobby.
David Rivkin is in LA now living and he's doing well. As far as I know.
So after you left Prince's camp and you were doing your own thing, were like, I guess, were you ever aware of the impact that you had on Madhouse and then like on his music, like just the love that you know?
Well, it's funny. It's funny. At the time we were doing everything, yes, I could see the impact of it. And then once I was out of the group and got away from him, I really lost sight of a lot of that, and I kind of just went off into being a local producer here in Minneapolis, studio guy, engineer, raising my kids. I wasn't really that interested in touring right away after leaving Prince. I had offers to go with a couple different groups, actually. I had offered decent gigs. In fact, but they were up and coming bands. They weren't, and later they became very popular, but I didn't do them at the time. The money wasn't great. I was kind of burnt out on touring actually a little bit at that point, and I needed a break, and I really wanted to learn my chops as a studio producer engineer. I really wasn't that knowledgeable yet in that, not too much, a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to be. So that's why I focused on that, and also because I was starting a family, and although I didn't really. Like when I left at the end of 1990, I didn't have our first kid didn't show up till 95. You know, my wife and
my
wife and I were together a good 5 years before we started having children. Although we would have had a child probably in 94, but we lost that one. Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And so when Prince lost his child, we definitely could relate to that 100%. We tried our best to reach out to him about it. And he was nowhere to be found. We couldn't even communicate. I even went to Paisley Park and walked in the door to see if he was around one day because we couldn't get a hold of him. It was really difficult to communicate with him at that time in 96-ish when that went down with him. So I was just trying to, send my condolences and console him and talk to him. I was eventually able to do that, but not at that time. He was obviously incommunicado. But yeah, so then, we started our family, and now my oldest son, Max, who's now 25, is a producer, engineer, artist in Los Angeles. And he has an album out, and it's on Spotify. He has a stage name that he goes by, which is Max Milli, but it's spelled MVXMILLI. So look him up. It's wonderful stuff. And I'm not just saying that because I'm his dad.
Did you play on it?
I have not played on his stuff, although we've collaborated on some other things recently together for projects, because I was working on a video game project recently for a local company here, you know, producing that with several composers, and I brought my son in to do some stuff too. And he ended up getting one song on that project. There's 12 or 13 tracks on there of every genre out there. So it runs from jazz to classical, one song each. The game is called Rhythm Rumble. And it's going to be on the Nintendo Switch platform, probably next spring. It was supposed to be out by now, but because of COVID, it's been delayed, obviously.
Sure.
But now Max, you know, he's signed to our record label here in Minneapolis called V Records. And that wasn't my doing. The people that are above me in that company liked his material and asked him to come on board just because I introduced him to them. But they loved his material so much that they signed him on with the other 3 artists. We have another gal named MJ Songstress, who was one of the top something in The Voice several years ago. She was in the top 5. She's tremendous. Check her out, MJ Songstress. And then a young man called Lil Crush from Minneapolis. and another gentleman by the name of Nico, Niko, Nico Brim, Brim. And he's in New York, and he happens to be also the son of our CEO, Jojo Brim, who runs our entertainment company here in Minneapolis called V Media Entertainment. So under V Media Entertainment, we have V Records and the In the Loop video blog TV show, which is a talk show, which is being produced out of here. Eventually, we're going to be doing way more video content, and this company is pretty new. The label's been around a little over a year, and but we got some great material on there. So check it out if you get a chance.
There's a question, Matt. Dwayne Tudor asks, what does Paisley Park mean to you? Because you started out at the beginning where you guys were in like rehearsal spaces, and then Paisley Park Studios. Like, how was that? Because you were the only one, I guess, when you guys kind of went in from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So
what
was that like?
Paisley, obviously, for anybody in this industry, is a dream come true, because it's at the time, and still is, a state-of-the-art facility, really. You know, you've got the big sound stage where you could shoot movies. I mean, they were shooting Hollywood films in there. They did Grumpy Old Men there with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, and amongst other things. They did a lot of commercials work in there and various things. And so you had that, and then you had the 3 recording studios and all the office space. And, you know, it was like having a great Hollywood studio sound stage in Minneapolis, which we needed here. You know, there weren't a lot of those kinds of facilities around here. So his vision to do that was really smart.
Tell me, Matt, about that month tour, right? Now I'm gonna go back to Paisley Park and shoot this film. Tell me about how that worked. Like, you know, because I got some outtakes where, like, Housequake or something, and Prince is doing the song like 3 times in a row, and he is nailing. Y'all are nailing. All of y'all are nailing. It's like, you know, which take are you gonna get? Because they're so close. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, that's up to Prince, which one he want to see himself doing good, you know, performing well on. Tell me about that process. Like, now we're going to go back. He told you we're going to go back to Paisley Park now, and we're going to shoot this movie.
Well, it was like any film, you're stopping and starting a lot, and, you know, doing the takes, and it's tedious work, really. Mm-hmm. So we were there for, I think, 7 straight days doing the additional shots that were needed, pickup shots, close-ups, and doing all that, because they filmed a lot of it over in
Rotterdam,
Paris, or Rotterdam.
Rotterdam, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I could have sworn they did some footage in Paris too.
Yeah, the You Got the Look video was shot in Paris.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then the movie was shot in Rotterdam.
Okay, my bad. Okay, see, that's how old I am.
And that's how nerdy we are.
Yeah, you're way nerdier than me. I'm glad you're refreshing my memory with all this. Because I haven't kept track. I should have kept a journal, you know.
How could you do that? Would you have time to do that?
Yeah, I was lazy. I didn't do the Purple Rain tour. I kept a partial journal, and then I got lazy with that too. But anyway, the work at Paisley Park that week, obviously we were like breaking it in. This was the first thing that was ever done in there. So
it was just a week.
It was only like a 7-day time or 7-8 days top. That we did all the pickup and close-ups because they had a lot of the live footage already, you know.
Most of the music you hear is actually still Rotterdam.
Yeah, but we did overdub work. I mean, there was some cleanup stuff that happened here and there. There was a problem with the soundtrack on the bass part for Sign of the Times. Something happened where I'm playing the bass part and I'm hearing it from my monitor on stage, but something happened in the translation, so it was delayed. I don't know what happened. Prince didn't know either. The tech people didn't, like, oh shit, this is off. So I had to go back in the studio and replay the bass, so it was locked perfectly. So that was one incident that happened.
Multi-track, so you pulled it out and did another one.
Exactly.
Okay. I have a question about the film. Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No.
And then, like I said, that was how we did that week at Paisley Park. And then I'll never forget the last night of the filming. We wrapped right around midnight, and then they announced that a massive thunderstorm had been taking place outside all night long that we weren't totally aware of because, you know, you're in the sound stage, you're not really hearing it. And they said, now be careful driving home. We've heard there's been some flooding. Oh, we went, okay. So I drive home, and I'm running into major flooding on the highway, and I can't get home. I have to go a weird detour and come back a different way and do all this stuff. So I finally get home, and there's a strange woman in my living room with my girlfriend at the time, and not my current wife, by the way.
Look at all our faces. We're like,
okay. So what happened is the woman's in my living room, and I'm going, what's going on? Who's this? Well, she got stranded in the flood and knocked on our door. Can you give her a ride home? And I went, okay. And I did. But it was like a record rainfall that night. I'll never forget. It was like 10 or 11 inches fell in like 5 hours. It was insane. So, okay, go ahead, Ricky. What was your question?
Oh, I was just going to ask about that break in the film with Now's the Time. I'm sure like that was in a couple of shows. Was that like Prince's choice? I mean, to use like that Charlie Parker tune and not a Madhouse tune to kind of showcase you guys, or was that? I mean, you know, I'm talking about like for the film.
Yeah, it was just meant to be a jam. You know, let's play some fast jazz. You know, let's play some.
During the tour, that song was played the most, and only 2 or 3 times something else was played in that spot, and one time was 4, and that was in Utrecht, and now that's in the box set. So that version of 4 is quite unique.
Yeah. Do you have a fondest memory from your time performing with Prince as a musician or as a friend? Well, there were a lot of fond memories with him, obviously.
Too many to recall, almost.
Yeah. But my favorite thing about him was his sense of humor. He really loved to kick back and do funny things, or be funny, or, you know, do characterizations, or do voices, or do silly, you know, he was a funny guy, and for all intents and purposes, I always felt, and I've said this in other interviews, I've always thought that he would have been great doing films with other comedic actors.
Yeah.
And being in a film with someone like Eddie Murphy, or you know, maybe even Richard Pryor, or you know, the guy that did stuff with Richard Pryor.
Paul Mooney?
No, there was another gentleman that did stuff with him. Anyway, it'll come to me later. The guy that played Willy Wonka.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Wilder.
Wilder.
Gene Wilder, exactly. But my brain isn't working right at the moment, Gene Wilder. So yeah, people like that, anybody in that realm and that time frame, you know, even into the 90s, I wish Prince had expanded his acting chops and gotten into comedy.
Well, that's what make him and Jerome and Parade kind of.
Well, you mean it? Yeah,
I mean, under Cherry Moon.
In Cherry Moon, see that show started to show his depth that way.
Yeah.
And then he probably felt I shouldn't be with another guy like that. I have to be set apart.
Right.
That's how he thought in his mind.
I got to ask this because that just took me to the Sheridan, Wyoming show, right?
Yeah.
And you guys were so funky. The Revolution, so funky. The Next Sign of the Times band, so funky. Did you ever at any point, I know what song I'm playing, but tonight I feel the electricity. We are funky. We are tight. You know, do you have any of those memories? Like, oh, we're so killing tonight. It gives you chills.
Like, you're just in the zone.
It gives you chills. You're like, I just did this last night, but tonight it's giving me chills.
I don't know about that. The chill thing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. The chills.
I will tell you. I mean, there are some shows where you just go, shit, I killed it tonight.
Yeah.
And then other times you went, I had a couple mistakes. I hit a couple clams. Damn it, that kind of thing can happen, but not too often. And Prince very rarely made mistakes ever. I mean, maybe I can remember a handful of times here and there over the years where he did something where he made an actual wrong note or something, and I heard it. The audience may not have. But the one thing about him as a singer is he was spot on all the time. I never heard a sharp or a flat note come out of his mouth. Ever.
That's incredible. Everybody need to pause on that. That's decades of playing multiple hours more than your average musician. And nobody can recall a flaw.
No, not really. Especially musically too, on top of that. I mean, you just didn't hear him.
And he was famous for saying, if you make a mistake, repeat it.
Yeah, exactly. I meant to do that,
cold.
even though it sounded like
that's cold.
Clam,
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Matt. If the estate ever got around to doing a Madhouse box set, like, would you participate in helping them kind of put that together if they, reached out to you? Or
Sure, why not? Absolutely. Wow, there's a great picture. Look at that. And that doesn't even have the Madhouse backdrop. We're just like on stage for the main show right there.
Yeah. Did you see the one before that? Did you see the one before this one? Where Levi was pointing the bass at you?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Did you see the picture before this one where Levi was pointing?
No.
I'll share that one as well. This picture is actually from the show that's now in the box set, June 20th, 1987.
Okay.
And the backdrop was supposedly left off there because of the threat of rain that day. That's what I've been told. So you can see your both of your setups in one picture.
Oh yeah, I see that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll share the other one. Just a moment.
Yeah, show him that one. That one was cold-blooded.
Yeah, it was.
You took those pictures, Edgar?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I got them from a friend.
Boy, I'd love to get those from you, Edgar.
I'll share them with all of you. Here's the other one.
Woo! Look at that.
Oh, sure. I've seen that picture. Yep, before.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember
So,
that.
Matt, are there any Madhouse like video rehearsals or audio rehearsals on tape or recorded or anything?
Good
Was
question.
your show recorded?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I know I probably have a lot of cassette rehearsal tapes here somewhere in storage from that time period, but I'd have to go digging for that stuff.
So
I'll trade them for the pictures.
What?
You trade them for the pictures.
Okay. Yeah. That's
good. Before we close, I want to go back to the Madhouse. There were a few Madhouse performances that were not support acts. They were club shows, which often merged into a Prince after show after that. Do you have any recollection on how the Madhouse songs were received on those club days? Were the people there to actually see Madhouse, or were there just a lot of record people, invites, and people like that?
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry. Something distracted me.
Okay, well, there were Madhouse were not only doing support acts, but they were also doing some club shows in Europe back in 1987. And I was wondering, the people who were visiting those club shows, were those people who were actually interested in Madhouse, or were those mostly people that were invited by record companies and stuff like that?
Oh, no, those were people that knew that we were doing the after show, because it was, it was kind of being spread by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So they were there to not only see us, but they knew Prince was going to show up and sit in too. So it was that he was probably the as big a draw as we were, probably bigger. Just them. The rumor was Prince is going to sit in with Madhouse after. So So
they're basically there for him, not for Madhouse.
No, both, but
okay.
But it's a double duty, as they say. They're like.
I got a curious question for you, Matt.
Sure.
I asked this to Andre Simone on one of the other symposiums. Did you know that Prince was going to be that guy going in the future? Like, before you came on, we were saying, they might be dropping big ass box sets. I mean, look at that. They might be dropping after we're dead. Not you, us.
Yeah.
Like, when they said a century, there's enough music for the next century, and not just one album. Like, we had this, we had the originals, we had the 1999 Deluxe, So that's two questions. Did you know that was going to be the guy? Because we ain't got all of this for Michael Jackson, which we would love, but it's not there, right? Did you think he was going to be the guy?
Yeah, back in 78, 79, so when y'all,
Oh no, after Purple Rain, like, we done did a couple of movies now. We here. We rocking with the best.
The concept of a box set wasn't even really there yet. A little bit, for in general, they hadn't really been doing them yet.
But do you think that
I think he was going to be as prolific and as popular as he became? You mean?
Yes.
And all that. In the very early years, I knew how amazing he was as a talent, and of course the hope was always there that we're gonna, as a group, we're gonna get to be really popular. Your goal.
Yes, your goal. Yeah.
And you hope that will be fulfilled, and you're going to do everything in your power to work hard to make that happen. So yes, I believed in him 100% that he was going to do that. But there's no guarantee. Obviously, there's no guarantee that any factor can get in there where you see a lot of artists that are even some of the most talented ones that are up and coming, and then it doesn't happen for them. Unfortunately, something wasn't right with the timing of the whatever.
Is it possible?
It's a tricky thing. But go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, but go ahead.
I'm just saying that the cream will rise to the top,
as
they say, and he was probably some of the finest cream ever to be put on the planet. So that's all I can say about him. In my mind, I thought he was going to be huge. From day one. I mean, the minute I heard the first album, I said, "This is astounding. This is unparalleled. I've never heard an opening of an album with some guy singing a cappella with himself.
That's right.
Doing this incredible harmonic structured choir thing. That's never been done. I've never heard that at the beginning of an album like that. Some guy singing angelic falsetto vocals coming out of a 19-year-old kid. Come on." And we were both the same age, granted, I have my talent and what I do, and I can sing too. I used to sing lead in bands before Prince and all that, in cover bands. But the point being, I wasn't a multi-instrumentalist to the degree he was. I was primarily keyboardist. I'm a pretty decent drummer, actually. In reality, I'm a good drum programmer. I don't dabble in much guitar. I never cared for guitar. For me personally, it was okay. I tried it. I tried to get into it, but I grew up on piano. Bass guitar, yeah, sure, dabble a little bit in that. But the thing is, he was so proficient on all four of those instruments. He never really played horns. I never saw him get on a sax or a trumpet or do anything like that. But as far as bass, keyboards, drums, and all that, he was unparalleled, really, as an artist that could play equally on each instrument, and be proficient to the level of where he could just play whatever he flowed out of his brain, whatever he's thinking, it's there instantaneously. And that's what was amazing. There was only one other guy or two other guys in the industry at that time that I was aware of that was doing that, and before Prince, and that was Todd Rundgren, Stevie Wonder, and Michael Oldham. He did that Exorcist instrumental theme all himself in the studio. He's one of those, and it was like like this guy did everything in the studio by himself, you know. So it was like a unique big thing happening for anyone doing that. Now I'm going to tell you our first performance on Saturday Night Live in 1981 when we played Party Up on the Saturday. Have you all seen that? Correct?
Yes.
That particular show, for some unknown reason, they had another artist perform before us on the show. Saturday Night Live never had two music artists.
No.
This was the only time they did that, and I don't know why. And the person that they chose to be first was Todd Rundgren, of all people. So very bizarre, very strange that you're going to have Todd, who's a Prince-like person, and then Prince, who is the up-and-coming Prince-like person that could play, be the whirling dervish in the studio, playing everything. I thought it was odd. It was interesting. Somebody at the top went, "Well, let's get Todd and Prince on the same show. They're both."
I always wonder why y'all only did one song. Now I know.
Yeah, now I know too. I was wondering too. I was like, "Where's that second song at?"
Yeah. We only did one song. That's why we only did one song, because they had Todd on first and then us. And go back on YouTube, see if you can find that, because
you can't.
You can't, right? They don't even show Todd.
No, I don't think so.
They have the whole Saturday Night Live, that whole show somewhere, maybe.
It's probably somewhere like in their DVD archive or something. Yeah.
Anyway, that's an interesting thing to me. I've been telling this story lately in some other interviews like this, because it was very different, and it only happened the one time on that whole history of the show.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
We don't have any time anymore. So I want to end with this quote by Eric. It's from the Love Sexy Tour book. And I was wondering, Matt, was it all big fun, Madhouse?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Big fun.
It was big fun. Absolutely. A lot of fun.
Okay.
Well, hey, on behalf of the community, we'd love to see y'all do like a reunion, even if it's virtual.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even if it's virtual, like we'd love to see it. Shout out to you, Eric, Levi, Dale, Sebenicia.
And I'm pretty sure there is an audience here in the Netherlands. A Madhouse cover band did a few shows, and there was plenty of people coming to see that. So
wow,
there is an audience. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And if Eric is down for it, so am I.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, so we got one confirmation right there.
The ball's in his court, though, not mine. I can't be the guy that says, "We're doing this, damn it," and you're going to do it.
Oh man. Hey man, it was a pleasure, Matt.
Yes, very much a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Fink. And so Dr. Fink is actually coming back to join us in an hour. So we're going to take an hour break so we can actually eat more than just chips and dip. And when we come back, we're going to have not only Dr. Fink, but also Eric Blow Your Horn Leeds, my favorite horn player, as well as his partner in crime, Atlanta Bliss. And we'll also be joined by Michael Dean. So thank you so much, Ricky, Jason, and Edgar, for the amazing photos. It was so great seeing those photos of Madhouse. And again, Dr. Fink, it was such a pleasure having you with us. And again, I am so grateful that you are agreeing to come back with us in an hour. So thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you, D'Angela.
You're welcome, guys. Take care.
All right.
Yeah, bye-bye.